So let's look at the pizzas app. At the moment, we haven't. It's not really an app. It just generates a random pizza, and it just does a single one of those things, a single pizza object. But actually, we can easily modify it to produce a basket of random pizzas. We hardly need to change anything here. The pizza class can stay exactly the same. So the pizza, if you remember the pizza class from last week, it just stores the type and price as data and has get description and add extra as methods. Let's just look at that. So this is this week's version, but it's exactly the same as last week. So pizza 06 is the same as pizza 05. And if you see there, it's got the init method where we save the type and the price. It's got a get description which loops through or creates the description by looping through all the extras and adding them on to the end. And it's got a method for adding an extra into the pizza, which just, if it's not already on the pizza, it'll add that extra, that topping, and append it onto the list of extras. Okay, so let's go back here. So that's the pizza class, doesn't need to change at all from last week. All we need to do in order to generate several pizzas is have a loop that will, so our code just generates one pizza. We just need a loop around that code that will then generate multiple pizzas, and we'll put them in a basket and then we'll list them afterwards. Okay, so you could just put a loop around it and that would just generate multiple pizzas. We want to put them in a basket and then we want to be able to see what we've generated at the end and add up the total price. And in order to do that, we have to put all the pizzas in some sort of storage, and we use a basket, which is actually just a list. So here's the pizza class, as I just showed you. The pizza generation, though, is a pair of nested loops. So the bit inside, where my mouse is at the moment, this is exactly the same as last week's example. So it just gets a random item from the list of pizzas, from the dictionary of pizzas, strictly speaking, and looks up the price. Then it generates a pizza object, and then it randomly adds some extras onto the top and adds. Now, the different thing is that we've now got a loop that picks a random number between 2 and 5 and loops that number of times. So it could be 3, it'll loop 3 times, and it'll loop for I in range n number of random pizzas, n random pizzas. Very common, by the way, to use n underscore to mean number of. Okay, so number of random pizzas might be 2, might be 3, might be 4. This will loop that number of times, and each time it will generate a new pizza. That's exactly the same. So as I said, it picks a pizza and it gets the price from the dictionary, generates the pizza object, adds some random toppings, and then the new bit is that we add that to the basket. And the basket, if you look up the top here, is just an empty list to start with. So every time we generate a pizza, we add the pizza, which is an object, to our basket. Okay. Now, once that loop's finished, once it's run, it's generated its 4 random pizzas or however many it's going to do. Because each pizza contains its own data, and because it's in a basket in that list, we can now generate the output by looping over the objects in the basket and getting, say, the price and the description. So here's the code for doing the output. This waits till the pizzas have been generated. So maybe 3, 4, 5 pizzas are generated. It calculates the total price by looping over all the pizzas in the basket and just getting the price from each pizza and adding it into this total price variable. And then it loops over all the pizzas in the basket again. So it prints out, congratulations, you've won the total price. So it's worked out what the total price is. Obviously, we have to do that before we can print this statement out. Then it loops over all the pizzas in the basket and prints out the description of the pizza and the price of that pizza. And that's a typical output at the bottom there. So you can see, congratulations, you've run £32.10 worth of pizzas. And because everything's in a list, we can do that calculation. Before, if we hadn't used objects to do this, this would be much more complicated. You'd need much more code to do this. So the fact that we can use objects means that we'd because before we had this, we'd have to have done a list of all the pizza types, and we'd have to have done a list of all the lists of extras. So it gets much more complicated. By creating these objects where we contain all the information about each pizza in an object, makes things much simpler. Okay, I'm going to finish the video there, and then we'll look at the university app example next.